This is Sportish.
Do it better.
This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish.
This is Sportish. My name is Geoff Brault. He's Dr. Keith Strudler, runs the School of Communication and Media at Montclair State University. The two of us, thank you for joining in, whether it's on For the Fans, which this week you can find us at 2 p.m. Will that be the case next week? Maybe, but probably not.
Noon. It'll be noon next week.
Unless it won't be. We've heard those lies before. For all you know, there's going to be a playoff game in the third tier of Austrian basketball. Maybe you're on YouTube, which you can find us whenever you want, unless you can't. Or perhaps you're listening to us as a podcast, unless you aren't because maybe your speaker's broke. We don't know. Or Keith didn't hit the upload button, which has been known to happen too. So you're either definitely listening to the two of us right now or definitely not listening to the two of us right now. But what's most important, Keith, is that you are only listening to two of us. What was a three-man operation, you, me, and our producer, Mike Wallace, is now 33% more lean, as Mike Wallace has decided to take his exit from the program. He had made, I think, an indelible mark on not just Sportish, but on all of sports media. And he felt that his work was done. He felt that the tens of people that we were reaching each week had been impacted as much as they needed to be impacted. And that there was no more good that he could do on this program. And he's now taken his retirement to, I assume, raise cats in a farm upstate somewhere.
You know, they say for all people who are great at what they do, that you know when it's time to move on, right? You just know. And I think, when Michael and I were having our weekly kind of breakdown of his performance, I could just tell that he knew that he thought his best work of taking the show and running it through the computer that I gave him to make it look like Sportish, he'd probably done his best work. And, Mike, this is tough for us because I don't just think of Michael as the guy that we give the show to make it look good. I think of him as family. I really, I do. I think he's been like family to us. We've traveled together. We've traveled to the Final Four together. We've traveled to the Iron Bowl together. Both of those cases, we've shared rooms together. So, very much family. We've broken bread. We've met his parents. We now are close. I would say close is probably the right word, to his live-in girlfriend, who I assume is getting close to being a fiance. So he is very much part of the family, but I think you're right. I think he said, I can't help you. I've taken you. This is kind of like that point and that thing you do where their first producer had taken them as far as he could take them, and it was time to hand it over to Tom Hanks. Yeah. I think that moment has come from Michael Wallace, but I personally, I'm laughing because I'm fighting back the tears. I will miss him dearly. I know our viewers will miss him dearly. A lot of you probably remember the time when he was on the screen for like 4 seconds before we told him to turn off his camera. A lot of you probably but what you probably didn't know was that one time when we let him get on and he said hi to Jack Ford, and then we said, okay, Mike, you need to turn your camera off now. You probably don't know about that time, those special moments for all of us.
Yeah. And like in that thing you do, which I think is the most apt cultural reference for this moment. We are no longer the Wonders, spelled Oneders. No. We are now the Wonders, spelled Wonders. And it is onward and upward for Captain Jimmy and the Shrimp Shack shooters here at Sportish. Because, as Gordon Ramsay has yelled at many a third-tier sous chef on the first 3 episodes of Hell's Kitchen, you've lost your passion. And I think that's just true of what happened to Mike Wallace. He got into this with big aspirations. He thought that we might be reaching upwards of 25 people a week. Maybe we haven't always been able to deliver the kind of impact he thought he was signing up for. Our following is, look, they are loyal. They are certainly loyal. We will say that about the Sportish few. But look, if to make another apt cultural reference, if this was a 300, we would not be the barbarian horde. So we are a plucky underdog group here at Sportish. We're glad that you're a part of it, but that life wasn't for Mike anymore. He does not believe that he can continue to flourish here. So, I mean, I hesitate to say we wish him the best, because honestly, I don't think that's true. I think we're both very vindictive. I think we wish him mediocrity. He'll
regret. He'll rue the day. He'll rue the day. I mean, look, let's be clear. I take that back. We come here to praise Michael Wallace, not to bury him. We will take some time later, as in the months and years to come, as we explode. We'll take some time to reflect on whether Michael Wallace was, in fact, the fifth Beatle. We will take some time to think about that. But now I think is a time where we should just think about the happy times. We should think about the happy times, the good times.
And while we do that, we need to gaze forward, because things are going to change. They're going to change for Keith and I in the back end of the meat grinder that is producing this show every week. But they're also going to change for you at home, whether you're watching on For the Fans, FTFnext.com, or you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, Stitcher, wherever you get your audio. There's going to be subtle differences. Maybe you'll notice them, maybe you won't, but we recognize that your experience is going to change. And to be sympathetic of that, we wanted to bring on your champion, your representative, to talk through his feelings about Sportish 2.0, sans Mike Wallace. Representing the voice of the people that watch and listen to Sportish, we are pleased to welcome in our 2020 Guest of the Year, coming to us live from what appears to be a set of a community theater production of The Phantom of the Opera. Please welcome Jay Friedman. Jay, thank you for joining us on this occasion.
Guys, it's great to see you. It's always good to be on the show. I wish this was a happier occasion to be joining you as it's been in the past, but always happy to be here.
Yeah, indeed. Our family is a little smaller. Mike Wallace is no longer with us for this chat and all of your other appearances on this program. He has been the man behind the curtain, and now he's no longer a part of this. It feels like something is missing. How do you think it's going to impact the show?
I mean, it's really sad. It's tragic. I think somebody so young to be, cut down in his prime like this, when he still had so much to give to what is clearly as Keith likes to say, a rocket ship to the moon. In terms of the impact on the show, I think, you guys are both in sports. You're in media, Jeff. You do a lot of sports broadcasting. I know you've announced that you're familiar with the trope or the saying that, if a referee in a basketball game or an offensive lineman maybe is if you're not talking about them, if the announcer isn't mentioning them, then they're doing their job. If you don't notice what they're doing, then that means that they're doing the best job that they can. But if we extend that logic to producing this fine show, Mike Wallace may be the greatest producer of all time. I don't know that I've ever noticed him do anything. So, by extension, I think he may be hard to replace in doing nothing.
Yeah, I'm sure his family will appreciate those kind words. Maybe if you could walk us through your favorite Michael Wallace memory.
Yeah, there is a lot to choose from. Yeah, and I don't know if this was, for the import or just the way it made me feel seeing it. But I think when Mike Wallace, and I forget the year, I'm sorry, but when he interviewed Golda Meir on 60 Minutes, and really kind of cut to the heart of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, that ranks among the best.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to. I think you may have the wrong Jeff. I'm not sure about. I think you have the wrong Michael Wallace.
That's not.
I think you're thinking of the former 60 Minutes correspondent, who of course is literally no longer no longer with us. We're talking about Michael Wallace.
Oh, right. I was saying, right. Sorry. That's my bad.
They're not the same. Like Michael Wallace, not only is he no longer with us, he was never part of Sportish. It was a world-renowned journalist.
Yeah. Okay. That now I remember that.
And the other thing, I'm not sure if you're aware, Michael Wallace is not dead.
Wait, what? He's not dead?
No, he just quit.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he died. I thought that's what we were doing here.
I understand. It feels that way. It feels that way. It does. I mean, a part of us died, but no, he's actually very much still alive. A great relief to his live-in girlfriend. So he just quit. He just decided he had enough of Sportish.
Oh, okay. I thought he was dead. So,
no.
Okay.
Do you want to stick with that memory? Do you want to stick with that memory though, as your favorite Michael Wallace memory? Even though is that okay? We just stick. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that captures the spirit of what your Michael Wallace brought to the program. So, yeah. Why don't we go with that?
Yeah. Now that you know that he hasn't passed away, and so you wouldn't be speaking ill of the dead, do you have any bones that you'd like to pick with the Sportish corpse of Michael Wallace?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. Now that I know that he's not dead, yeah, let's go ahead. I think I've told this story on the pod before, but longtime listeners will know that I was lucky enough to be one of the first and probably one of the last actual guests on the show, which is, I think, says something about my appearance that you stopped having guests shortly thereafter. But around that time, and this was early in the Sportish days and still in the heart of the pandemic, Keith, I was lucky enough to have you come on the show for a rather wordy, but I thought very pleasant conversation. And shortly after that, when we had published that episode, you had, in a subsequent Sportish episode, had started to allude to the fact that you'd been on the show and mentioned something that we had talked about. And Michael Wallace, I think I'm talking about the right Michael Wallace now, was very quick to cut you off and uphold the ethos of no free ads for your fine program. So thanks, Michael Wallace, for keeping the journalistic integrity of Sportish up to snuff.
So I mean, now I'm going to say if this is something that happened in the 2010s, it probably was our Michael Wallace. I'm just going to, Jeff, I'm going to go out in a flyer there. So I'm going to, my question, I guess my last question, do you have any ideas? I mean, I know you're a medical doctor. You work, I'm sure you're fairly familiar with grief counseling. Do you have any advice for us who are experiencing loss? Anything that you'd like to say for us? How can Jeff and I move on?
Yeah, because we have to talk about the college football playoff. We have to talk about the Olympics coming up. It's going to be difficult to do. It's hard to push through our grief to be able to entertain the people that come to us for news about the most important sports stories of the day.
Yeah, I think it's important not to try to. It's important to acknowledge your emotions. It's important to keep them out and make sure that you're surfacing them. Don't try and push things down. The fact that you're using this platform to work through your grief and express the way you're feeling, I think is healthy. It's cathartic. And really for the rest of us, for the rest of sports loving society, I hope you guys do continue to bravely fight your way through this grief, just so you can bring us your really consequential and I should say necessary thoughts on who won the French Open. So thank you guys and really be strong.
All right. Well, thank you, Sportish 2020 Guest of the Year, Jay Friedman. He is also a podcaster, but in honor of Michael Wallace, we will not tell you the name of the podcast or how you can listen to it. But look, there aren't that many. If you found this, you can probably find that too. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks for having me on, guys. And yes, I think that's the way Mike would have wanted it.
As they say in show business, the show must go on, and that is true for us here in Sportish. We mentioned it with Jay Friedman just a moment ago. We talk about college football. We have to talk about the upcoming Olympics in Tokyo and an athlete that will not be taking part in those Olympics after she tested positive for a banned substance. Let's start with college football, Keith. A couple of months back on this show, we were talking about the format of the college football playoff. I made a very radical suggestion where, we were talking about what would you like to see in a playoff? And I said, well, you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see all the conference champions get in. Well, apparently someone was listening. because there is now a 12-team
That's it.
format.
Yeah, that's what happened.
You're welcome, college football fans, because if you were clamoring for a deeper playoff, you might be getting it. 12 teams, the top 6 conference champions, and then the top 6 at-large teams to form a 12-team playoff. I like it.
I actually like it as well.
Segment
what's
over.
Interesting. Hot takes.
They say conflict is the essence of drama. And we bring that to you on Sportish every week at 12 or 2 or 3 or midnight on For the Fans or FTF2 or FTFnext.com.
You want me to come back?
There's no German basketball playing.
I'll just bring some hot takes. My hot take that I did off the air. Made is a better movie than Swingers. Hot take.
Well, first of all, now we got to get Mike Wallace back as our producer to edit that out, because that is the dumbest thing that has ever come across this.
It is the smartest take I've had since the last smart take I had, which was that what's her face, Courtney Love's song is better than anything that's been done by
Nirvana. Also stupid. Please stop doing these things. Stop. Who hurt you?
You know, the Psychedelic Furs are going to be going on tour in the fall. I'm going to check that out. They're coming right down to Montclair too. I digress. As far as the
major cities.
Montclair's happening.
What are you doing? Theaters, arenas? Oh, Gilda's coffee shop down on Main? Okay.
As far as the college playoff goes, what's interesting is the minute that it came out, Kirby Smart from University of Georgia was like, yeah, I think we should have 4 teams from the SEC. Like, he already put the flag in. He's like, okay, you can have 12 as long as the SEC gets a third of them. That's fine with us. And so, you know, as much as you would assume, and I think you pointed this out off the air, that what was interesting was they did not distinguish which 6 conferences. Like Correct. One of the points I think when we had this conversation early on was I was like, look, no one wants to give up money. So the Power 5, and whether you want to call the AAC part of this or not, are never going to give up their sure thing. So, but they didn't do that. I think there's just the recognition that, yes, the SEC champ, and yes, the Big Ten champ, and yes, you know, the ACC and Pac-12 and Big 12, we just know the champion will be included. And also, even the way in which those conference championships are structured. This isn't like college basketball where you can have a losing record and find your way to the championship. You have to have won your half of your division of the conference to get there. So those schools are going to get in. The interesting thing here, and there's a couple of interesting things, is what does this mean for the Band of 5? Like, what does this mean for the North Texases and the Southland or the Sun Belt or all these other conferences that are kind of on the outside looking in? And is there a chance that we still have 12 teams that are all from the Power 5 conferences?
Well, no, there's not, because the top 6 conference champions get a bid. So like last year, Coastal Carolina would have been in. So whoever the highest ranked team out of that group,
which will 9 out of 10 times be either Houston or Cincinnati or UCF.
They would get in. So UCF, when they had the undefeated season, they would have been in. Coastal Carolina last year would have been in, and it would have Boise State back in the day. They would have been in. Yeah. So someone will get to play for a national championship. The 6 at-large bids, I would highly doubt they would go to anyone in the group of 5. So you get your 1 spot, and all they had to do to get it was to give 5 spots to other Power 5 teams.
I mean, that's the thing. Is it better, or is it now just as bad or worse even for these? Like, I mean, you're not really making a whole lot of progress. I guess there's an argument you could, it's really hard to get more than 1 team.
It's better. It's better when lightning is caught in a bottle, right? So if you're UCF and you go undefeated and you get, ranked 12th or whatever, you're probably going to get a shot as one of the either top 6 ranked teams that aren't conference champions, or as one of the top 6 conference champions, assuming you win your league. So I think it's better. It gives you a much clearer path, as opposed to, I hope the committee looks at us and deems us worthy. Like, you actually have something you can achieve that no one can take away from you.
Yeah, I like it. It's also interesting. The college presidents were like, we are not going to do this. This is wrong. These kids play too long. And as soon as the financial crisis from COVID came, they're like, 12 sounds about like, they were literally like I don't know. 6 is just too many teams. Adding it, and they didn't even bother. This train went way out of the state. They're like, look, we need cash, and we need cash. This is like those shark loaning services. When you need cash, and you need cash now, they just went all the way. They were half the way to like a 64 team tournament. Like.
Well, and the stuff that's never going to stop is, so now you're just going to complain if you're the 13th team or you're the 7th best conference champion. So now that person's going to be the one who's on the bubble and complaining about how unfair the system is. We got to expand the playoff. And then, by the way, every sports league in the world just keeps expanding their playoffs to the point where we're not going to have regular seasons anymore. It's just going to be a year-long tournament where everybody plays off, right? The NFL has expanded their playoffs. Major League Baseball's expanded their playoffs. And that's just in the last 3 years. Like the NBA already has more than half of their league qualify for the playoffs. Same deal in the NHL. Like, of course, college football is going to follow suit.
Yeah. What I do not think will happen is that it will devalue the regular season, which is, the fear that everyone suggested. I tend to look as someone who is now clamoring to get back to a Gator game. Like I'm ready. Like I'm going to do something crazy this fall. I'm going to get on an airplane. And I think I'm going to go watch a Gator game. Right. And I got to tell you now, maybe this is just the COVID, or maybe it's the cold I have right now, which I have spared the audience from complaining about, but I have issues with the medical community right now. I have issues, and I think you know what they are. You know exactly what they are. And I'm talking about you, Jeff. You know what my issues are with the medical community.
It's a runny nose. A runny nose is your issue with the medical community. Yeah.
No, my issue is this is going to come off as insensitive, but we've spent a lot of time focused on COVID over the past 15 months, 16 months.
Tragically, 600,000 people have passed away. Yes, we mourn every loss.
That was unnecessary, especially when we're dealing with the trauma of Michael Wallace. That was a low blow. But how long has the common cold been around?
Forever.
You don't
Cro-Magnon was dealing with it.
Do you think he was like, oh God, my sinuses, if I don't get to Rite Aid before it closes, I'm going to have a miserable night.
Yeah, actually, fun fact, the man actually first made fire with a Rite Aid receipt.
He's like, do you think he was like, I cannot believe I didn't buy generic. It's so much cheaper. And it's really the same thing. It's the same. I will tell you, I'll buy generic. I will buy any generic medicine. I prefer the generic medicine. I feel doped when I get the pills that are made by the real company. I don't want it. I want nothing but things that have names that sound very made up.
Are there brand loyalists for non-generic medicine?
Oh, I am. Oh, I'm 100% a brand loyalist for generic.
But I mean the other way. Like, are there people who?
Oh yeah,
really?
Oh, Andre will definitely be like, I'll come home with like the Walgreens Advil copy. She'll be like, could you get the real stuff? Like 100%. Because she thinks I've got some fake drug.
Is there anything where you won't buy the generic? Because I have one thing where I will not buy the generic brand. I must have the brand name because I'm convinced it's better. Is there anything in your world where you will only buy the brand name no matter what it costs?
I tend to go with dishwasher liquid. I'm on that. Okay. I have a lot of them, so I have a list.
Interesting. Okay.
Dishwasher liquid, toilet paper.
I agree with that one. Spend the extra money.
Charmin. You go for the Charmin. I would say those two for sure. Trying to think of others that might. Those are my number two. Dishwashing liquid and toilet paper are probably my 1 and 1A.
Toilet paper now is certainly on my list. I've been doing it without even recognizing it. But mine is cereal. I believe the brand name, you buy the brand name cereal.
No, So this is my theory on cereal. My theory on cereal is not that the generic tastes the same, but it's a different experience. So
a worse experience.
I'm not saying that the fake Cheerios taste like the Cheerios. I'm saying maybe I like the fake Cheerios, right? Maybe I just like the way that well, you also, I have
not as good.
Close by. No, they are good. And by the way, everything that Wegmans makes is better than everything that everyone else makes.
Listen, I know Jay Friedman said no free ads. We will give a free ad for Wegmans. It's the greatest grocery store that's ever been invented. Wegmans is the best. And yes, my life is less fulfilled because I don't live near one. So
yeah, it's a game changer. It's a game changer.
If you've never been to a Wegmans, get in your car and find one.
Like, yeah. And every time you go in, you get the same level of joy. It doesn't go away.
Correct.
It doesn't go away.
Yes.
It doesn't go away.
And I will say the Wegmans brand products are very good. Again, they're not paying us to say this. They should, but they're not. And their products are very good, but I just think there's so much variance and inconsistency when it comes to the non-name brand cereal that you just got to get the Honey Nut Cheerios. You got to get the Rice Krispies. Give me the General Mills. Give me the Kellogg's. I want to know what I'm getting when I open that box. The last thing I want to do is be surprised by some little cardboard flakes when I thought I was getting some Tony the Tiger Frosted Flakes, because I know they're great. But I don't know if the generic brand is great. And I can't take that risk in my life. I have too much uncertainty in my life as it is. I cannot play the game of roulette when I rip open the cereal box top in the morning.
I know we've got a lot to get to, but two things. You know what's a good cereal, a good eating cereal, is that Cheerios where they like glue all the oats and stuff to it. And it's just like a hot mess of Hardy. Like it's like Cheerios with oats and all this kind of stuff and honey and it's all glued together. Secondly, how are you with just snacking on cereal just right out of the box, hand in the box, sitting there watching TV?
I don't do it. No.
Thumbs up.
The cereal experience comes with milk. I think people that eat dry cereal are, quite frankly, they should put on a watch list, because we as a society need to know who those people are.
I'm one of them. I love to just get a big box of cereal and just sit there while I'm watching TV and just dig my hand in. The problem is you have to decide if you're going to tell people or not that you're doing that, because you're creating an unsafe situation in the age of COVID, obviously. Now that I have this treacherous cold, by the way, I'm the last one in the house to get the cold. So it was dragged in here by someone else. And so there's going to be some restitution to deal with on the back end of this. As far as the college football playoffs,
dynamite segue, Keith.
That's a pro touch is what that is. That's years of training. As far as the playoffs go, look, I think there's a few things we're going to have to hurry up and wait and see. One is, does it do anything to the regular season? Again, my guess is no. And I also, if we're going to go really out on a limb, I think there could be a culling of the herd when it comes to college football over the next several years anyway. And that could largely come in the 1AA and Division II, Division III. So I think we might see fewer teams anyway that are competing. Secondly, let's see what the ratings are for something like this. I mean, none of us know. We all assume it's going to be bananas, which I think it very likely will be. But let's see what happens when you put the 12th rated team, which up against, a much higher rated team, and the games aren't so competitive. Part of the reason why the 4-team playoff and some of the, the big conference championships are so compelling is because these teams are relatively close. If you have a truly, kind of overbearing Clemson or Alabama or LSU squad playing a Coastal Carolina, it could get ugly pretty fast.
Yeah, but it's supposed to. And occasionally, whether it's 1 out of 10 times or 1 out of 50 times or 1 out of 100 times or 1 out of 1,000 times, an upset's going to happen. And it's supposed to be rare. And most of the games are supposed to be blowouts. That's what the early rounds are for. The point is they get their shot. You get your chance. You finish it on the field, not some people in a conference room saying, well, we know you're not going to win, so you don't even get the chance to try. I'm for it from that perspective. Do I think it will kill the regular season? No, I do not. I think it'll kill that stupid week before conference championship week where all of the best teams play, like Troy. No offense to Troy, who I know beat LSU a couple years ago, but they go and they play those, those pointless games, those tune-up games before they have to play their rivalry and then go into the conference championship. I do think what might happen is we might be seeing the end of the conference championship games.
No.
I think if 12 teams get in, it does not make sense for the SEC to have a conference championship game.
You know why it makes sense?
Why are you going to hang another loss on one of your two best teams in the last week of the season when both are going to get in if they don't play each other?
No, they're going to play because there's too much money. There's too much money on. They make too much money on these games, and the alumni love them. That's A. B. It might work the other way. You might have a team play their way in It's just as the same way. You might have a team play their way.
You might in the smaller leagues. Like I understand why the Mountain West might want to do it, but why would the SEC risk if you have Alabama and Georgia, for argument's sake, and Alabama's undefeated and Georgia's got 2 losses? Why would you want to hang a 3rd loss on Georgia, which is almost certainly going to kick?
You know why? Because then another team, Mississippi State will get in, or Florida. There's going to be another team there. It's going to be next man up. I am.
But it might not be from that conference. It might be next man up out of the ACC.
My guess
Boston College, come on down.
That's a long drop from Georgia. You could have done better than that.
Florida State purposely picked a team that wasn't, I was like, Wake maybe Forest. I'll go with UConn, but even I was like, I can't go with UConn.
You know what we want to see? We want to see Army in this thing. We want to see Army.
It's going to be very, very difficult for an independent to get in. And the big loser in this is Notre Dame.
Sure. But, Notre Dame has created their own situation. And I don't, despite the fact that I did watch Rudy the other night, which, by the way, hot take, not a good movie. Not a good movie.
I'm actually inclined to agree. Good story, not a good movie.
Yeah. And I would say it's better than Miracle, which is an awful movie, but it's still not that good. Miracle's a terrible movie. It's a terrible movie. It's a bastardization of a wonderful story. It's
saccharine because it's Disney, but it's moving. It's what it's supposed to be.
It's not moving.
It's pure jingoistic Americana. That's what you watch it for. You don't watch it for an in-depth exploration of the 1980 Miracle on Ice and the geopolitics between America and the USSR. I'd like it just to be realistic. There are HBO documentaries for that. You watch Miracle to hear Aerosmith's Dream On at the end when Herb Brooks is in that hallway fist pumping because his team won, and you feel proud to be an American. Give me my Eagle hat and my American flag shirt.
All right. I know we got a lot of other things to talk about. I'm excited about the play. I'm excited. Oh, you are out of your mind. You're an insult to this country. And so that devolved really poorly.
I do not apologize for loving my country. Hey, love it or leave it, Buster. Canadian borders open. I don't think that's true. Canadian borders opening soon. And I want you first in line.
Should you just wait there? Oh, come on. Who wouldn't want to live in Vancouver or Montreal?
I'd actually love to live in Montreal. It's a great city. Montreal's a great city. Tremendous food scene. Wonderful city. The winters can be a little rough, but it's got history.
They got an underground mall. They have a whole underground mall. You just live downstairs. It's fine. And you don't like to be out. You're not like a runner or anything. You'd be fine. Let's do it.
You want to move to Montreal? If we did this show in Montreal, it wouldn't be Sportish. It would be Sportish.
Sportive. All right, let's move on.
All right, we got to talk about the Olympics because it's coming up. Keith Strudler has guaranteed that the Olympics will be happening. He hasn't yet been proven right, but it seems like it's going to go on.
Yeah.
Something that the IOC is hoping does not go on, Keith. Something they hope that does not happen in the Olympic Village.
It's the same thing AC Green wanted not to have happen.
It's what they don't want to see, hear, taste, or smell is a copious amount of athlete sex. They do not want that to happen. Now, here's the problem. Despite the fact that they do not want that to happen, they are still handing out 150,000 condoms to Olympic athletes in the Olympic Village with the caveat that they please not use them until they get home, where they are to be used, Keith, to teach HIV and AIDS prevention tactics around the world. Godspeed to you, IOC.
They've kind of written a check they're going to have a hard time cashing. So 100. Now, how many athletes are there in the Olympic Village? You got about 10,000. We have about 10,000 athletes and some coaches. So let's say you have 15,000. I'm just trying to do the math on this. How many condoms?
150,000.
That's a 10-to-1 ratio.
That is, by the way, 149,999 more condoms than those 2 Australian guys found in that safe locked under their stairs that they took 8 years to break into that we talked about in our last episode. There's a lot of condoms.
It's a lot. So as we all know, and I'm sure they're going to be just dispensed free in machines. They'll be out in candy dishes, whatever they are. I'm sure they have the flavored ones and the whole deal. Do they have are they I mean, this is a very inside baseball. Like, do they have the Olympic rings on the condoms? Because I'd like one of those.
They should. But even better, what if each one was flavored with the national food of the country the athlete represents?
I mean, that could be risky. But I mean, is it like Argentina? It's got to be like a beef. That's not a flavor, I think. I mean, there's some flavor profiles that I think would be an ill fit. If I'm going to be honest. So, I mean, at that point, you'd want like a tropical fruit situation. If you could have your choice, like a papaya. This took a turn. Not surprisingly, though. So, as you know, this is a normal occurrence that when you have this many young, attractive, virile athletes who have basically put everything on. I mean, you want to talk to people who are tightly wound, type A, who have put everything on the back burner. In fact, there was a great video, like a piece after the 100-meter dash. I can't remember which athlete it was, an American sprinter, 100-meter dash, who literally, after he finished the finals of the 100, was just walking around trackside eating bags of candy because he had basically not had junk food for the last 2 years. And it was like this release of like, I'm free and I'm going to do everything. I imagine that a lot of the athletes have refrained from carnal pleasures for some time as they've, or, not even purposely, but just because they have been working so hard. And so when you put all these people together and the events are open and, as they like to say, what happens in the village maybe stays in the village. So, boyfriend, girlfriend at home does not need to know. And so this is a common occurrence. As someone who participated in the Maccabea Games, which is the Jewish Olympics, it was less copious.
Well, I can report, and not because I've ever, shocking, spoiler alert, I've never been an Olympian myself, but
nor a Maccabea athlete either.
Also true. No lies told. But I do know a surprising amount of Olympians and people that have been in the Olympic Village, and to a person, everyone that I've talked to, and they span several different sports, ages, genders, they have confirmed that it is the tinderbox that it is reputed to be, that rumors of the fornication in the village have not been exaggerated, that it truly is like your first day at a hedonism resort.
I mean, how bad do you feel if you're the person that comes home, they're like, oh, how was it? You're like, struck out. I tried. You also have to be realistic. This is not where I thought we were going to be talking about here. You have to be realistic. If you can't be like, I'm going after the star, the gold medal gymnast. Like, you have to, who might also, to be fair, might also only be like 16. So that.
And I'm sorry, what did you think this segment was going to be about? Because you knew we were going to talk about the 150,000 condoms that are being distributed in the Olympic Village, but the IOC telling athletes not to use them in Japan. How did you think this segment was going to go?
I thought we might get into a policy conversation. So, I mean,
like a human rights discussion. How dare you tell me what to do with my body?
This is a question, and I'll take everyone behind the paywall. We discussed this off air. Is it better to win a gold medal and have no extra benefits after you've won the gold medal, or win a silver medal and have the time of your life? What with maybe an athlete of particular note?
Yeah. So I choose option B. Give me the silver medal and the extracurriculars. And I'll tell you why. This is the same criteria that I tend to use for just about any of these sort of, what would you pick? You should pick what's more rare. And there's an awful lot of people that have a gold medal. There are way less people that have a silver medal and a great story to tell for the rest of their life.
Oh, I bet you there are more people who have had intimate moments with Olympians than have gold medals.
But you didn't say an Olympian. You said as someone of note right?
Sure.
And so I believe that having that experience is worth more than having the gold medal because it is a rarer experience.
Okay. How about this?
There are people with that story than there are with the story of I won.
All right. How about this? First of all, let's take it down to a bronze. How are you on the bronze?
I'm still going to take the medal because I still got the medal.
Bronze it's not a prestigious medal. I mean, I understand. It just doesn't even look as nice as the other two.
I tell you who doesn't think that. The person came in fourth.
All right. How about you're out of the medals? No medals. Now you're
this we can't get into now in this program. Now it depends on part B. Now what that is comes into play and it's important. So I don't know. What would you choose, Keith Strudler?
Oh, I want the gold medal. I want the gold medal because I'm going to walk around with that gold medal all the time. So I want the gold medal. What about this? Let's take the same scenario and it's gold versus silver and you can have your experience, but you're never allowed to tell a soul that it happened.
Give me the gold. Give me the gold. Obviously. Obviously.
This is not even for the experience. Yes. This is, you're a horrible person.
Any lay person that hooks up with a famous person, right? Assuming that you win, but you're some sort of anonymous, you're not some also major athlete that's famous and has endorsement deals or whatever. The allure of hooking up with a famous person is not because they're like somehow better than a regular person. The allure of hooking up with a famous person is telling other people that you hooked up with a famous person.
That's not nice.
They're just people. They're just people.
That's not.
They're no different than anybody else.
Do not degrade famous people. You know how I feel about famous people. They are different. They are special. They're cut from a different cloth.
Keith, let me show you how a professional does a transition. Someone who's not going to have to deal with this conundrum. United States track athlete Shelby Houlihan. Why? Because she won't be competing in the Tokyo Olympics or any event for the next 4 years, as she has received a ban after testing positive for nandrolone, a steroid.
Yeah.
She claims that the test was a false positive triggered by eating a tainted pork burrito 10 hours prior to her test. The IOC or the WADA, whoever's in charge of the suspension, wasn't buying it, Keith. Said, we don't believe your burrito story, even though she produced a receipt, even though clearly she did have a burrito.
I mean, I don't think she needed to prove that she ate the burrito. I don't think that's the issue. Look,
and I
did go to Chipotle. I got my reward points.
To her credit, there actually have been studies that show that like certain types of pork can trigger a false positive. Like she has, if you read her case, pretty strong case. I'm actually inclined to believe that she didn't do it, but I'm not WADA, and WADA says you get a 4-year ban. And I tell you, blaming the burrito, whether it's true or not, is an all-time excuse.
Well, it's up there, but it's not quite as good as when Dennis Mitchell once tested positive for too high testosterone levels. And his excuse was that he had sex, I believe. It was like, there's an outrageous number you must have to have the testosterone. And it was like, he basically said, I had sex 50 times last night. And that was his excuse. And he was sticking to it because medically he had a case. Again, hard to prove that happened. Also would seem to indicate that his performance would have been poor on the track the next day. He didn't seem that fatigued and he seemed to be walking just fine. So that is a very good excuse. Look, we went over this when we talked about, we did a very serious story about horses that found themselves into drug problems. And I think we handled that with quite a bit of professionalism. Is it possible that the pigs have also found their way into some illicit drugs, that maybe the real culprit here isn't the burrito or even Chipotle? Do we know where she got the burrito? There's a local shop
in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, well, now we're going to really be up against it because we don't even have a supply chain that we can deal with. I mean, who knows where they're getting their pork? Who knows?
I mean, you have raised an interesting concern. Your concern is now that Bob Baffert, who was banned from horse racing because Medina Spirit, of course, tested positive, you think that he may, because he's got to replace that income somehow, opened a food truck in Portland. This is your concern. You feel like that's what we need to get to the bottom of here, just so we can rule that out.
I'm not sure. I don't know if he's in on this or if he's just a patsy. I really couldn't tell you at this point because I don't know how deep this goes. This seems like something that would be very likely. You imagine this traces to the Russians at some point. You have to believe that the Russians are giving drugs to the pigs. Doesn't that make the most sense? Doesn't that make the most sense?
I don't know if it does. Let me throw this theory out at you.
Sure.
What if this is the beginning of a Planet of the Apes type situation? What if the animals?
Are you talking Mark Wahlberg situation? Is that what we're talking about?
Look, I think maybe.
Or is this Charlton Heston? Is it Charlton Heston or Mark Wahlberg? Which direction are we going on this?
I think we have to take into account the possibility that the horses and the pigs, under, of course, the rule and supervision of the apes, that they may be self-infecting themselves with performance enhancers in order to very slowly destroy America through its athletes. It's a possibility, Keith. And I don't think enough people are talking about it.
It's a deep theory. I mean, that's deep state. That's deep state situation. You're talking, because now you're not just talking about the pigs and you're not just talking about horses. You're talking about the apex mammal.
I mean, if you wanted to destroy American society, would you not start with sport? We didn't deal well with that when it all shut down in March 2020.
I mean, look, let's be clear. I mean, I don't think the apes have an axe to grind with the humans. I mean, just go to a zoo. I mean, I don't think the apes definitely have an axe to grind. And it's really, I mean, so it's either the apes or the Russians. Those are... I think we've illuminated some clarity on what's a very serious case. Someone very likely took performance enhancing drugs and is no longer able to compete because she took some PEDs. And we've now decided that it's either the Russians in a deep state conspiracy to drug pigs, or more likely that the apes have convened a planetary kind of grouping of all the smartest animals on the planet. Of course, horses and pigs would qualify for that. And they have decided to destroy the earth this way. It's a great idea.
Yeah. I think you've said that well. And I do think, and I'm going to look right in the camera when I do this. If you're a Russian ape, we're watching you. Our eyes are open.
Of course they'd come after the Americans first. Of course they would. Of course they would.
Cold War's been cold for a long time. High-level thoughts to ponder until next week's episode.
Do we want to say something about Michael on the way out? No. Is it over? I mean, it's just over. That's it. Michael Wallace, of course, no longer a part of the Sportish team for the time being.
The world turns on. He's Keith. I'm Jeff. We're all you need. See you next week, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Sportish. See you next time.